right, race fans, Brian Aho here, the one and only Bert Lehman. Bert, we're both looking good, supporting some Brad Parsons Soil and Egg Solutions stuff here, right? A little Eggsime. And we got Coach Kraus in the house, episode number 210. 210, so we're inching our way forward here. But, Kraus, why do you have to be so hard on shit? Seriously. So, Bert, I'm on the phone with Kraus here a couple days back. He's like, Friday, he's on his way to a hockey game. He can tell the story, but it don't matter if it's a race car, a bus. It don't matter. He's wrecking shit all the time. What happened, Kraus?
Heck, I think my race car breaks down more than our bus does. But we're cruising down I-35. We had just stopped in Farmington there, and we get to Northfield, and my driver goes, "We're blowing white smoke out the back of the bus." I'm like, "Oh boy." I said, "Well, check your temperature gauge." We were about 240, and luckily we got right to that Flying J there, right in Northfield there, and got off. And there's antifreeze everywhere blowing out, and we don't know what's going on. If it's thermostat stuck or if it's the head gasket. The radiators are up top on the bus. So lucky I got connections. Called my buddy Mike Stussy, who's throwing Allstate Peterbilt over here. He hooked me up, called me a guy, and we had a guy there within about an hour, and we got to moseying around, and sure enough, a rod that runs our blower fans for our motor to cool the motor down broke. So we had to run down the road, get that welded up, and luckily we got the game on time, and we did lose, though. That was the only problem. But get this, Brian. As a coach, you're always worried about the guys being prepared. We outshot the opposing team 22-4 in the first period. We were up 1-0. We ended up losing 3-1. So that was my long day on Friday. Leave at 9 a.m. And but we did get a win on Saturday to make the bus ride a little bit nicer coming home. And the bus didn't break down and ran great on the way home.
Yeah, that's a plus. So that's moving in the right direction. Bert, how's your week going? How was your week and weekend?
The weekend went well. We had our company Christmas party Friday night, so got home late, but it was fun. But before we get started with the show, I do have something to share with you guys. I just found out about last week. We had that question about if you know of any stories of drivers sabotaging other drivers. Well, apparently this happened back in the 1960s. Roger Paul, he was a very well-known driver in eastern Wisconsin, and his wife was due to have a baby, and he was at the races racing, and he got a message that said that his wife went into labor and she was going to the hospital. But apparently Roger Paul stayed at the races and raced, and then as soon as his race was over, he went to the hospital, but his wife wasn't there. She was still home. Apparently somebody conveyed a message to him because they didn't want to race against him, so they tried to get him away from the track. And
wow.
his wife had the baby a week later on a Saturday earlier in the day, and he went and raced Saturday night.
Well, that's good stuff right there. People will try anything. I guess the drivers, there's one to keep in your memory bank right there. That's a good one. So I actually I was down in Iowa, not by Kraus actually, but I was down there for the weekend, got to see my daughter. Ventured over to the Hamilton County Speedway in Webster City, Iowa. Never been there before, and just checked out the place. Too muddy to take the car out there on the racetrack and make any hot laps. But interesting though, guys. It's an old fairgrounds racetrack. I don't know if you ever seen pictures of the place, but they got there's literally poles everywhere in the grandstand. So if you're sitting up high there, it seems like it'd be very unique trying to kind of look through all those poles to see the racetrack, but might be kind of fun to catch a race there. So Impact Health Sharing, proud sponsor of the show. If you're a business owner, if you're an individual, if you cover your employees, your family with healthcare, and you're looking at it and you're like, man, I'm paying too much for something I rarely use. I don't get to go to the doctor I want to. My deductibles are too high. I might have something for you. Hit me up, 218-969 1380. I have a product called Impact Health Sharing that's been able to 50 to 60% less than what the average person is paying for their health insurance. Been able to bring those costs way down. So if you're looking to save some money, maybe I can help you out. So a little disclaimer here, we're a racing show. We're just kind of three stooges here that like to have a hell of a lot of fun. Not a lot of drama going on right now, so not a lot of shit talking, but understand this, right? You might be one of those people that you get your feelings hurt easily, right? Maybe you don't like cuss words. Maybe you don't like us picking on certain people when they do dumb things. If that's the case and you're going to get triggered, this might not be for you because we like to have a lot of fun. We call it how it is, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Sponsors, sometimes they agree, sometimes they don't agree. It's not their opinions we're expressing, but we have a lot of fun, talk a lot of shit, talk racing, and hopefully you guys enjoy the show. So, guys, we got a new sponsor here. We're going to talk about them a little later in the show, but brand new sponsor, Hard Charger Performance Specialties, engine builder over in Sydney, Montana. I've actually had engines from Nick myself. We'll talk about him in a little bit, but thanks to Hard Charger Performance Specialties for coming on the show. Glad to have them here for the 2024 season. But let's start with this. The top 5 stories of the week. There's getting to be a lot of racing, right? And if we go over every single race, it'll be a 7-hour show. We can't do that. So we're just going to break it down to the top 5. And before we do that, how about a quick shout out to Brad Parsons Soil and Egg Solution. So if you're in Western Minnesota, right, North Dakota, South Dakota, if you're in farming, you're looking to make more money, you want to be more profitable, you want higher yields, you need to have the right stuff in your spray packages. Now, I know farmers are, you kind of stuck to what you have. I get it. But give, of course, my phone rings, right? It's got to be my mom. I love her to death. My mom literally is the only one that'll call me 3-4 times back to back, and it's got to do that. I love you, Mom. I will call you right after the show. But if you're over in that area, give Brad a call, 320-219-3542. That's Brad Parsons, Soil and Egg Solutions. He's been a racer for a long time, so he's part of the racing community. Why not at least get the data, get the research, get the numbers, see if he can help you out. So, guys, number 5, and I don't think either one of you watched this one, but I did. I was up late. I'm like, you know what? What the hell? I'm a night owl, right? The time zones are a little bit different down under. How about this? Dave Dulciak's boy here, the smooth operator, Bobby Pierce, parking it in Victory Lane down in New Zealand. Now, did either one of you get to watch any highlights? Did you jump on? You didn't see anything?
I just saw a still photo of him after the race was over.
Hey, question for you. Was his dad in Victory Lane? I don't think his dad was down there.
I don't know. I saw a picture of the car and then the crowd in the background.
How about that? Bobby growing up before our very eyes, dad not down there giving us stick signals, still got it done. I believe, I'm pretty sure. But so guys, unique, very unique. 3 classes of cars at this particular race. And he raced in what's called the Super Saloon. So it's basically their version of late models. So they look like a late model until they get to the rear tire, and then they look like a 1990 Pro chassis with the little tiny short quarter panels. Kind of neat looking. They get up on the wheel though, a lot of moisture in those tracks down there. They really get it nice and wet, a lot of grip. They're on the chip. So how their format worked is they ran 3 what they call qualifiers. So they have 3 groups, kind of like heat races, and group 1 and group 2 run together in one heat, a 10-lap heat. So I think it was like 16 cars in one heat. Then group 1 and group 3 run together, and then group 2 and group 3 run together, kind of like a round robin, right, in hockey in a tournament. So they did that, and they take total points accumulated from those races. There's some kind of an invert, and then they did the pole shuffle, the top 6 to the pole shuffle to line up the A main. He went on to win the A main, and kind of a unique deal how they did that. Then they had super stocks. That's Coach Krause's class. That's my class, super stocks. We like their super stocks, Bert. The body rules would not fit with soda. Okay, let's just say that. Remember the old coupes, the old they almost look, I don't know what the heck they'd be like, back in the 60s, I saw a Billy Nelson car. They just kind of look like old coupes, almost like a kind of like a dwarf car. But you know how at the go-kart track they got metal around all the tires, kind of to protect the tires on a recreational go-kart track? The race cars had that. And they had wings on top, like wing modifieds back in the day at Cedar Lake. So the first thing they did, they actually have a full race where they do heats and features and all that, so regular race. But this particular class, because they're built so sturdy and they don't rock over, they have what's called team racing. Okay. Now, guys, have you ever actually watched team racing? Dude, this is the coolest shit. Kraus, we got to make this happen. You and I, same team. It's roller derby on dirt. It's the coolest shit I've ever seen in my entire life. It was freaking amazing, right? What they do, and they have a big team. They got like 6, 8 cars on a team, but 5 cars from each team. They go head to head out on the track at one time. So the first thing they did is they ran a little hot lap session with everybody. Next thing you know, they stop the whole cruise out on the track. They have a 3-minute bell. They're making adjustments out on the racetrack. The crowd's into it. They're watching them. The bell goes off. They park them all on the track, and they go green. How the race is done is it's 10 laps. The first team to have one driver complete 10 laps wins the race. So you got your couple fast guys who are going to try to win. The other 4 are jam cars, and they are pounding you into the fence, spinning you out, driving through you. It was absolute mayhem. They have a big tournament on it next week, but you want to talk about something unique, something different? I mean, hell, let's face it, me and Kraus probably, we drive like that anyway, so we'd fit right in on that deal. We could imagine, what would your dream team, Kraus, in Super Stocks right now, with all the drivers that we've raced against, right? If you had to put a dream team together of 5 drivers that you're going to be like, this is our team race in Super Stocks, we're going to have some fast guys. We're going to have some people that are going to beat the shit out of the other guys. Who's your 5?
Oh, boy. Me, you, Timmy Johnson, Don Ishins, and who else we got to throw in the mix there? We got to put, trying to think who else we could, who was fun?
Timmy for sure.
Who was fun back in the day and we ran against him a little bit and I got into it up in Ada was Dustin Strand. Remember when he was in the Super and we bounced him out of the way for you to win that one night up in Ada because you were chasing points. I think I ended up 3rd because he drove over my left front, but I get along with Dustin now. So I think that'd be my 5-car super stock team. And let me put it this way, Bert. You might as well not even race. Give us the money and the trophy and send us home.
Oh man, guys, it was cool. It was cool. And so if you go to Bobby Pierce's Facebook page, the streaming platform, I don't remember the name of it, but it's in one of his threads that he had. Watch me here. Next weekend, I think it's Friday night or Saturday night, they have a 16-team invitational for this team racing. I tell you what, if you're a night owl, it is worth the $30 to jump on and watch that. It is going to be super cool. Another thing that stuck out to me there. So you think about drivers that, last names that are junior or the 3rd, right? They're listening to this team race, right? Frankie Wyman, Jr. I'm like, Junior? Yeah, not the 3rd. Frankie Wyman, Jr. I'm like, oh my God, that is great. So highly entertaining. So to me, that could have been the number 1 story of the week, but Bobby Pierce winning down under and just being able to get cultured, see some different stuff, it's worth checking out. That's number 5. Guys, number 4. I'm going to switch this around. I had it number 3, number 4, Blake Adams. Guys, I know, Kraus, you watched everything down there, right, in Arizona. Did you watch pretty much all the features? I know you had hockey this weekend. Bert, I think you watched the late models.
I watched bits and pieces from all different ones.
Coach, what did you watch down there in Arizona?
I didn't get to see much Friday and Saturday. I watched obviously Thursdays, but Friday we were traveling all day and then at night, and then they get done a little bit earlier. I didn't watch much in Arizona from Friday. Watched some highlights, obviously checked the results, obviously, to see how that went.
So the B mods down there, let's just say it what it is. The Nightmare Lucas Rodin, flat out dominant, right? Tip of the cap right there. Lucas Rodin, class act. I love the family, know them guys pretty well. He won 5. He got 2nd in the other one, the series champion for the weekend. The guy that kept him from sweeping the whole thing, and I got a point on this deal in our pick'ems, right? In our predictions. Blake Adams, third generation racer, not a junior, but a third generation racer. But he started front row, right? He started front row with Lucas Rodin. And guys, if I would have said, hey, here's the deal, I'll put $100 bill on it right now that Blake Adams gonna beat Lucas Rodin. Rodin's on the front row with him. Would you guys have taken that bet as good as Rodin was running? Boy, he
No.
put it to him. Rodin kind of got to him a little bit, but Blake drove a hell of a race. Super cool seeing him get in victory lane. And then I want to give a shout out as well, Jake Smith. No wins down there, but he did go 6 for 6 in the top 5 every night. And he had 4 podiums. He was winless. So, former Wissota national champ Jake Smith running well. Number 3, let's talk late models. Kraus, I'm going to let you take this one away. I would have to say the biggest moment, in my opinion, of the whole 6-night series came down to the gentleman that won the final night of the Ernie Mincy early thaw. Coach Kraus, who parked it in victory lane down in Arizona?
Our buddy Dustin Bloom in the 45 is good to see him do well. I saw the results there, and I was watching. Obviously, I think I was doing some numbers on Ricky Weiss from the week. His average starting spot was darn near 11th. I don't know what he was doing in the heats or the whatever, but he came forward every single night. And then, of course, the last 2 nights, the night he won, where'd he start, Ryan? He was on the pole.
Mm-hmm.
He got second to Bloom. He started on front row. So, I think having that sniper chassis and definitely helped Dustin because I know obviously he's in a sniper and Ricky's in a sniper. And I know they're good friends. And we know Dustin. I know he used to pit for you, and he ran us. He might be a good one to throw on our super stock team down there in New Zealand too. He ran a super for a little bit, and I remember following him one night, 994. He had no sides, no deck, no nothing. And him and Ishins were getting into, and I was behind him. And I didn't want nothing to do with it, which usually doesn't happen. Usually I'm right in the middle of it. So just good to see him get a good run. He's got good equipment, he's got good cars. He's in a different chassis usually every week. So with the way he goes through cars and stuff like that, but good to see him do well down there and have a good run. And especially for us locals and watching him, we all know him. Everybody knows Dustin. He's usually the what do you want to call it? When the party's going, he's right in the middle of it. So good guy, and good to see Dustin get a win down there.
He'd be a good guy to get on the show because he's not afraid to say it how it is either. So he's one of us, right? So congratulations to him. His biggest win. I would kind of say the Josh Zimpel of 2024 because Zimpel was so good down there last year. I mean, he really kind of stood out. And this year, Dustin Bloom, I mean, he ended up a pair of fifths and that win the final night, Bert. Top 3 drivers, right? Ricky Weiss got second. Dustin Bloom got first. Shane Edgington got third. What did those 3 drivers have in common, Bert?
They're all snipers.
They're all snipers. Dustin couldn't. I tell you what, he spoke very highly. He said the car. I mean, if you watched it, the car just rotated. It just looked really, really good. And he said that Ricky and the whole crew were just awesome helping him, get that thing together. So pretty cool to see some success for Sniper Nation down there. And then as far as Dustin Strand is another guy, you mentioned him, Kraus. He ran really good. I mean, he was winless, but he was in the conversation about every single night. And fans, before I jump any further, punch the buttons below, right? Who are some drivers, if you had a team race, right? I want to know who you guys would have on your team. I'll put that in the comments below. It doesn't have to be a super stock driver necessarily. But Bert, Coach, anything else stick out to you in the late models down there in the desert?
No, not too much. I mean, there was a big wreck on, what was that, Thursday night?
Friday. That was Friday.
Friday night. They had a hard time getting that race going. It seemed like there was caution all the time. But other than that, I mean, it was good racing. Sabraski had a good run. I think it was the final night. I mean, he was up 4th or 5th at one point, but then he faded to 9th or 10th, I think, in the final rundown.
Yeah, he's going to transition into that class nicely. That Clayton Stuckey zone who kind of caused that Friday. He spun out in front of the whole pack, just destroyed everybody. He got second on Thursday. probably should have won. Nothing against TPO. Tyler did not have the best car. Car was really tight, couldn't hold the bottom very good, but he didn't make the big mistake. Stuckey made a mistake like every other lap. He had the faster car, but TPO drove a better race and he won. And so he had a couple down there as well. Number two, couple legends, right? So you think, racing careers don't last forever. Now, maybe for these guys, they kind of do, right? But Billy Moyer, 2 weeks, not this week, but last week number one, he got a couple wins down there. Did you guys see who ran an IMCA stock car down there and picked up a win on Friday night?
Yeah, I mean, not only did he pick up a win, but he finished in the top 5 every night that he raced in the feature. Kenny Schrader. That's the first time I've ever seen him race in a stock car.
That guy will race
other than NASCAR.
Right. Yeah, he'll race anything, but think about it, right? So these guys have been doing it a long time. I mean, Billy Moyer, arguably the best ever in a late model. Ken Schrader, the guy's raced everything. Ken Schrader, he actually came up to Hibbing, super good guy, down to earth. He just wants to be one of the guys. He doesn't want that, like, oh my God, it's Ken Schrader. He doesn't want that. So he's just one of the guys. I mean, how big of a deal is it? How much should we be paying attention to the fact that they don't have many years left? Should we be cherishing these wins that they get at the later part of their career, knowing that they only have maybe a few left? What do you guys think on that?
Well, I mean, you should cherish every win. I mean, I think some people may look at Moyer's wins and say, well, these wins aren't like, he's winning the World 100 or anything like that. But I mean, to me, it doesn't matter what you're racing. The goal is to win, and to be winning at his age is still a great accomplishment.
I kind of feel like a quitter. I mean, maybe I need to get back in the 29 star or something. I don't know. I feel like a quitter. So let's jump into our top story of the week. But before we do, a quick shout out to the folks at Fastlane Motorsports and Powder Coating in Ashland, Wisconsin. Proud sponsor of the best series in all of Wissota racing, the Northland Superstock Series. Coach Kraus, did you happen to see the news, right? The best just got better. Did you see what they announced for the Northland Superstock Series?
I did. I was actually texting with Dennis today, Mr. Dennis McCauley. We're working on some scheduling stuff, and I just had kind of he'd posted that, and we got a Superstock special and at Viking going on, so I was just running some things by him, and big one. I think it was at 4,000 to win in Ashland on June 1st. Then which is going to be part of the Superstock series, and then they're going to go on 2 4-day swings after that. He's still finalizing dates in the series, and that should be coming out here somewhat shortly. So it's a pretty cool deal, especially with the mods are down at MTS. Why not throw a big deal up there? He's been hounding me to get the 29 to come up there. Maybe if I can con the one to go show star Ryan Aho to come up there with me, because Viking's off that weekend because there's a doubleheader up and at I-94. Maybe we'll hop in the old Aho hauler and head up to Ashland. What do you think?
That might be kind of fun. We'll have to look what the schedule looks like as we get closer, but that'd be fun to get back up there to check out the old ABC Raceway. So if you need parts, right, fabricating, sandblasting, whatever it may be, your go-to, Fastlane Motorsports and Powder Coating in Ashland, Wisconsin. So the big one, of course, is the late model stuff that went on this weekend. Specifically, RTJ, his first win of the season, right? Coming off a big year where, I mean, he wasn't technically the Lucas Oil champion, but it is what it is. He should have been. I mean, shoulda, woulda, coulda. He wasn't. But boy, did he have a year last year. Got his first of the year, not without ruffling a couple feathers. Let's one of you guys take it away. Kind of run through what happened in that feature. Night number 2, night 1, Hudson O'Neill. It got a little racy in the middle, but he was kind of the dominant car. But night 2 there was some drama. Either one of you go ahead and take it away. What happened in that race?
Well, RTJ took the lead at one point, and he was running the low side, and then Marlar was running the high side and was making up some ground. And in 3 I can't remember exactly when during the race, but Marlar went high, but then he came down and kind of crowded RTJ, which I mean, I don't know if RTJ did it intentionally or just, from being crowded. He drifted up in 4 and kind of pushed Marlar up to the top, and RTJ was in the middle, and Superman ducked underneath and took the lead. And then it was in the next lap. RTJ almost spun Superman out. I mean, he got into his rear and almost got him sideways. But then Davenport saved it, stayed in the lead. And then RTJ was low, went to the high side, and Superman drifted up just a lane in 4 or entering 3, and RTJ stuffed it in there, and there was some contact made, but RTJ took the lead. But then he lost the lead, but the caution came out, so they gave it back to him. So that's it in a nutshell.
Yeah, so then he parked it in Victory Lane. No, there was a yellow right after that. And on the yellow, both Marlar and Davenport took a swipe at RTJ under caution, right? He was not happy. They got into Victory Lane. So, Coach Kraus, you're a driver. I want your perspective on the Marlar deal and on the JD deal. What is your thoughts on the both racing incidents?
Here's my thoughts on that thing. RTJ just wanted to win more than those other guys did. That's 100% what it was. And Marlar chopped the you-know-what out of him going into that corner. And you can see him get on the brakes. Problem is, you miss your mark and you set up and you let up on those cars and they drift. And he mild contact. Did he run him up the hill? Absolutely. Could he ran him in the wall and wrecked him? Yes, but he didn't. Okay. So that is what it is. And then the JD thing, I don't know if you watched that, Ryan and Bert, but if you watched again, I guarantee you Davenport spotters were pointing him to get to the high side because he all of a sudden darted right to the wall coming out of turn 4, and he hadn't done that the laps before. Okay, and RTJ saw that, and then he shot underneath him, and he just wanted to win more than those other guys. So they're whining and complaining. The restart was the right call. They did make the right. I watched that again when the yellow came out. That was the right call. I know Madden really wasn't too upset about it, but moral of the story is RTJ wanted to win more than those guys did, and guess what happened? RTJ won.
Bert?
Well, and I'm glad you brought up the point about spotters because I rewatched that. I rewatched the incident several times today, and you're right. I mean, Davenport was on the bottom the entire time, and RTJ was on the bottom right behind them, but then for a lap or two, RTJ went to the top side. So I was wondering if Superman spotters told him RTJ was on the top because, I mean, he left a full lane open at the bottom. And, I mean, I like Superman. He's one of my favorite drivers. I like RTJ too, but Superman's being a little over dramatic when he says that RTJ tore his side off. I mean, RTJ's car, his right rear tire was where Davenport's left front tire was before they made contact. So, I mean, he was almost completely by before the two cars made contact. I mean, he stuffed it in there. There's no doubt about it. But like RTJ said, it's a rubbered up track. There was that was probably the only opportunity I was going to get to take the lead. So he took it. And the thing is, and Ryan, you mentioned this about taking the swipe on the caution lap. I think that's what RTJ was upset about the most when he got out of the car, because that was the first thing he said in Victory Lane, because he got disqualified at Deer Creek last year for making contact. Well, that time it was after the race was over, but he made contact with Hudson O'Neill. So they put him in last place for that race. And so I think he felt that those two should have been disqualified from the event for doing that. I think that's what he was upset about the most. But then all the other drama started happening. And like I said, I like Superman, but, him saying, well, if that's how he wants to race, I'll keep that and blah, blah, blah. And then he goes, but I want to be the bigger man. And well, you just you just went down that road. You can't go down the road and then say, I'm going to be the bigger man.
Yeah, I was looking on Facebook because I'm friends with Jeremy Thornton on there too, which is RTJ's brother, and he posted a video of Davenport literally driving right over RTJ last year. He goes, "Here's an example of JD driving with respect," right? So I mean, it happens. You're racing hard. You're racing for a win, but here's the real deal, in my opinion, is 2 years ago, Jonathan Davenport was a $2 million man. He was the man in late model racing. Literally, the next year, RTJ made him his bitch all year long, right? Racers have egos, right? Anybody that competes, we have egos, right? His ego got majorly bruised. Not that he was terrible last year, but he wasn't RTJ and he wasn't Bobby Pierce, right? So how much of that, right? So Crows, you've been there. You've been at the top. You've been kind of, at times you struggle and times you're great. When you're at the top and somebody comes in and they start just whooping your ass, how bad does that bruise your ego, and how bad does that compound all the other little stuff that happens and just make them matters even worse?
No, you're 100% right, and that's 100% what it is. And you, like I said, you kind of get almost too comfortable, and it's probably good. Davenport's going to look at it and say, "This is probably good." Pierce and RTJ and these guys going, "I got to pick my game up. It's just not going to come easy anymore." So no, you're 100% right. You get to that point, and if you're a competitor and you compete, I don't care what it is, what sport you're playing, and all of a sudden you're on top and you start getting beat, you don't like that. And then, you're gonna, the big thing is you just got to stay composed. And look at the football games yesterday. Look at the teams that came out on top with coaching on who was composed and who wasn't. It's the exact same thing. I don't care where you're at. So competition brings out the best in you, but it also can bring out the worst in you too.
And with that said, right, so JD gave him the driver's elbow and on the podium there. He kind of gave him a little shove, and so I mean that was kind of, you could tell it was kind of like maybe lightening the mood. Maybe it was like his version of like passive aggressiveness. I'm not really sure, but let's just call it is what it is. Rivals are not supposed to like each other. That's not a thing. In what universe is it like you're dead on rivals with somebody and you're like, oh, kumbaya, like, oh man, good job there, buddy. What? Right? And I love Justin Vogel. I love him, but I'm gonna be honest, it drives me absolutely insane when he runs down in victory lane and he's hugging everybody that just got done beating him. I'm like, and I get it. He's a good sport. It's great. It's all that. He is truly a good guy, but you're not supposed to like your rivals, right? You're supposed to like, I mean, I was rivals with Dave Moss. I get along with Dave just fine now. I mean, I wouldn't say we're going to go out to dinner anytime soon, but we did not like each other. I'm telling you right now, we were not friends when we raced. Cross, who's been your biggest rival in racing? When you were racing at a high level, winning a bunch of races, who was your biggest rival? And were you guys buddies at the racetrack?
No, for the most part, no. I think it kind of started. John Steppen and I raced against each other forever. And we're talking, we KRA, Mass, not only at Viking, and finally one year, this is about we're talking 15, 20 years we raced against each other every single night. But good friends with him. I talk to him all the time. Just bought some parts from him the other day. And he finally came up to me one year and said, "Jeff, can we finally stop giving each other the middle finger after the race is over, coming down pit road?" We used to always say who's number one, and we finally had enough of it and got end of it. But he was one. Scott Danziesen was definitely one when he was in the Super. And he, I still tell it to this day. I still tell it to him. If it wasn't for guys like Scott Danziesen and Tim Johnson, I wouldn't be who I was because they made me better. But you also didn't like them. Tim Johnson was one guy too I ran against for 3-4 years. We ran Wilmer, I-94, Viking for 3 straight years with Tim Johnson and ripped each other's doors off, and we're buddies now. At the time, you're not. So but it's what makes racing great and gets the best out of you. It's great for the fans. It's great for everybody. And at the end of the day, you also have to, like John Steppen did, hey, this got to come to an end. You got to, know when to be smart about it too, not do dumb stuff, and have some fun and make sure it's competitive, but you're also being smart about things too.
You're a hockey coach. There ain't no smart there. It's boxing match. What are you talking about? Bert, back in the day, right? You're pitting for MJ, right? And the big three, right, was Parker, McBride, and Valink, right? That was kind of the big three rivals. Was it a friendly rivalry, or was there one that like just did not like the others? How was that rivalry over there?
I mean, I would say it was a friendly rivalry in the fact that, I mean, after the races were over, they could have a beer together, but I mean, there was, I mean, yeah, they weren't going out to dinner together yet, like you said. I mean, you could be cordial, but I mean, when I first got on MJ's crew, it was just like, that's Terry Avalink, they're the bad guys, they're our rivals, and that sort of thing.
100%, right? It's almost like football, right? The Lions were playing, they lost, they're playing again in the Super Bowl this week. They're an NFC North rival, right? In no universe does a Vikings fan want to see the Packers go, right? And the Packers don't want to see the Vikings go. I didn't really want to see the Lions go because they were, so it's just not a thing, right? So this deal that's going on between JD and RTJ, I hope it festers. I hope it gets worse because it's good for selling tickets.
And another thing, and we touched on this last week on the show, wondering how much of a chip on the shoulder RTJ was going to have this year because of the year he had last year and not getting the championship. So in his mind, he may feel like, I got to go out and do what I did last year to prove to people that, it wasn't a fluke.
Yeah, and JD, to bring that, Bert, JD just pissed him off even more, RTJ, and that's not good. You just let him be. Hey, you won. Give them the opposite effect. Hey, good job, blah, blah, blah. Give them the whole that, make them all feel good, and then you go out there and take care of business next time. But now you made them mad, and that's not good.
Maybe Vogel's smarter than I thought. I'm not really sure. Maybe that's part of the plan. So speaking of that, chip on the shoulder type deal, egos, we got a fan question here from Good Jeff. Good Jeff, speaking of late model guys, Brandon Shepard, right? He got into the Longhorn, didn't quite have the good year last year, started getting faster at the end of the year, and they put him in the house car, right? He gets the house car ride. Number one question I have is, well, what is he gaining? Because he already has a free ride. So, Coach Kraus, maybe you can elaborate. Maybe you give your thoughts. Well, number one is, what is he gaining from being the house car driver, right? Is it a benefit? Because he has to be testing. He has to try stuff when they want. It's kind of I'm guessing, a little different situation because money's not the issue. They already have the backing. And number two is, does that put a target on him? If he all of a sudden starts clicking off a couple wins and he gets into that mix where he's kind of where Pierce and RTJ were last year, how many of them other Longhorn teams are going to be like, screw this guy? Like, we're all in freaking Longhorns. Longhorns dominating everything except for Huddy. What makes this guy so special? So A, what's the benefit? And B, is that going to bruise some egos if he starts running good?
I don't know. I've been tossing that up. I personally don't think he should ever left Rocket, or different getting out of the house car, but then get into the Rockets. I don't know what happened there. Something was, who knows? Who knows working for Mark Riches? We've all heard stories. We've all heard some things. So who knows what's going on there? And like I said, if he starts doing well in that thing, the way Longhorn's going right now, there's zero chance they can keep all these guys happy. There's no way they can do it. With all these guys running around, I mean, you heard these out there thinking everybody and this crew guy, and these crew guys. Pierce always says it. It's going to get to a point where, like, who's going to be helping who? Who's going to be telling the truth? Who's this guy's winning all the time? Why aren't I winning? I want to win, not him. So yeah, there's definitely going to be. It was kind of a weird situation. So and now is Longhorn going to put up with Brandon Shepherd not duking it out with Pierce and Thornton all the time? I don't think they are. That's where if you're in the Longhorn house car, it better be Brandon Shepherd, then Pearson, then RTJ. In my personal opinion. And look at Huddy. You know what I mean? Huddy won the championship last year. He contends for every win. He's that guy in the Rocket. Then Richards ain't going to put up with not having that guy. So it's super interesting scenario. It's going to be interesting to see what pans out, with all these Longhorn guys, especially guys like Madden, the short fuses anyway, and kind of whine and complain about everything the way it is. So it'll be interesting to see how it pans out over the course of the summer.
Lots of egos in racing. Bert, anything to add on that? Any thoughts?
No, not really. I'm not exactly sure, what the benefit is of being in the house car, but yeah, I didn't think about this until you guys brought it up. Yeah, I mean, Shepherd was in the house car for Rocket, so I mean, there's got to be a little bit of pressure on him to perform the way he did when he was in the Rocket house car.
Yeah, I think you're spot on there. So let's jump into the 2024 Pick'ems. That segment of the show. One of our new sponsors here, Coach Kraus.
Yes. Elevate-visual.com. Make sure you need any drone work done, you need any video production work done, anything like that. If you're a real estate agent, own any property, need drone work done, make sure you get a hold of Brandon at elevate-visual.com. You can also find him on Facebook.
Awesome. So our movers and shakers from last week. So remember, just last week, Kent was like in the cellar. He went on vacation, went down to Mexico, didn't give a shit about the picks. He was a cellar dweller. This week, he led the charge, right? Plus 13 for Kent. My boy Changa, plus 12. Curtis and Brad, plus 11. New Dan and myself at plus 10. And then a few of you guys kind of in the mix, 9, 8, 7. And then Good Jeff at plus 3. Good Jeff, right? Michigan, right? You were cellar dweller last year. Step it up there, guy. Like we can't let you fall this far behind. Pick up the pace. So our current standings right now, Brad is at 41. Our reigning champ, Curtis, at 40. Chonga's at 36. Bert, you're at 33. I'm at 32, 1 point back. That rounds out the top 5. Coach Kraus, you're at 29 star. Kent is at 27. Good Jeff's at 25. New Dan at 19. I skipped Dan. Good Jeff and Dan at 25. And we got New Dan at 19 and Mike at 11. I know he's stuck on the JD train. He loves himself some JD, but I don't know that he's the guy to be picking. I'm just saying. I'm not sure. So I'll look ahead to this week. Brought to you by one of our sponsors, Daytona 1 Performance Lubricants. Buck, he's in the Hall of Fame for lubricants, right? The NASA Hall of Fame. The only lubricant company in the NASA Hall of Fame. Pretty cool for him. They got a lot of different products out there. They got tire treatment. Definitely a good product to kind of research, learn about. And then they got this product right here, right? The XL1 engine treatment concentrate. They call this horsepower in a bottle. Dyno proven to improve torque and horsepower. Cold weather startups. Kind of had a nice winter this year, but it's not always as good. Helps with that. Reduces friction and engine noise. Better fuel mileage for your daily drivers. Why don't you give Chad a call? 507-828-3536. Learn about all the great products they have to offer at Daytona 1 Performance Lubricants. This week, guys, we got a couple races, but we're going to pick. We're going to pick the Lucas Oil Dirt Late models. Of course, they're running Tuesday and Wednesday at the newly named Ocala Speedway, no longer Bubba Raceway. It's Ocala Speedway. And then Friday, Saturday, the Lucas Oil Late models are at Alltech. UMP Mods, they're racing Monday through Saturday. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, split features. We're not making picks there, but the rest of the way, we'll be picking those events. Another race that we're not making picks for, but is happening Friday and Saturday, the Southern All-Star Late models, Friday and Saturday night at Screven. Why I bring this up? Brandon Overton, who was slightly on the outside looking in, did not make the Final Four. guys, it looks like he's going to Screven. He's going to skip Alltech. Kind of made the decision. He's not following any series this year. He's going to freelance again. Your guys' thoughts on Big Sexy not following a series in 2024?
It's not necessarily too surprising because it seems like he doesn't follow a series more often than he does, but it is interesting, considering the increased payout that, Lucas has at the end of the year. And, they did change the format where now it's not just the final rate. I mean, you still have to make the top four, but then it's the total points over, I think it's a four race schedule.
So I have a question, and maybe either one of you can take this one. Is looking at the Hunt the Front series, which is kind of in his area down there, right? They upped their money. The Southern Nationals, right? That's Ray Cook's deal. They upped their money as well. With all that stuff going on, a couple series down there, not saying he's going to follow either one of those series, can you expect to see him at several of those? I don't think he was at any of those races last year. Would you expect to see the 76 at some of those races this year?
Yeah, I could possibly see that, kind of like what a Dale McDowell does, runs Southern All-Stars, runs some Hunt the Front stuff, and then hit all the big shows, like, Overton and McDowell usually always do. So, and if that's where he's at financially and things going on, it makes 100% sense. Keep the travel a little bit less and hit some show, and they're good paying shows. And then when he goes to those things, he's going to be probably the favorite going into them things. So, you pick up 10, 12, 15, 20 or whatever it is, per weekend. I think that's going to help out. So I think something you could probably watch and see if that's going to happen.
Yeah, it'll be fun to see what happens here this year. So let's jump into a blast to the past, another segment here. A look back at the 90s, part 2. We did that last week, talked a little bit about the 90s. A quick look this year. This week, again, brought to you by Dirt Track Supply. So Ron and Trevor Anderson, great ambassadors to the sport. They build the Aero chassis. They service a lot of different racetracks in the area over there in South Dakota, western Minnesota. They do any kind of fabricating, build bodies. They have any part you need. Check them out, Dirt Track Supply in Watertown, South Dakota. So our champions in the other 3 classes. We talked lates, mods, and supers last week. So 1990 and 1991, these 3 classes, they weren't a thing. But we'll start with the championship sprint cars. So here's a quick trivia question for either one of you two. This driver was the first ever WISSOTA Championship Sprint Car national champion in 1992. He won it again in 1994. Okay. Now, this driver, I believe he won it one more time in the 2000s. He also has a WISSOTA late model national champion. Name the driver. Chuck Swenson. 4 national championships. Now his kid Blake Swenson, he's actually turning into a pretty good driver as well. They build big conversions. They build the big toters over there in Watertown. So Chuck Swenson, Mike Sitz. You remember Mike Sitzman? I don't remember that guy. 1993. Lou Kennedy Jr. from up north of the border, Winnipeg car, 21K, I believe he was, blue car. He won it in 95. In 1996. This driver went on to have a massive career in the world of outlaws. Bert?
Donnie Schatz?
Donnie Schatz. Yep, Donnie Schatz, your national champ in 96. Travis Whitney in 97. Mark Taves in 98. And then Roger Rager in 99. That's the championship sprint. Now, that we'll talk in the 2000s. It only went on for a few more years. No longer a class in WISSOTA, one of the classes that just didn't last in WISSOTA racing. But they put on some pretty good races for a number of years, and a few pretty darn good drivers to come out of that. Do you guys, Kraus, did the WISSOTA sprints ever come to Alex back in the day?
No, they didn't. But I watched Donnie Schatz for the first time at KRA. I think I was down there with my buddy who had a Pro 4 modified, and Schatz was pitted. You know where the tree line is on the backside there, the old pit area back there. He was parked in there. And then whenever they were part of the Western 100. out in Aberdeen. The sprint cars were. So there's a couple times when I used to go out. I went out there maybe once or twice. Didn't get to travel too much. I was either playing or coaching, but the sprints used to run out there, so it was always fun to watch. And then he's technically my equipment manager. He actually helps me with my hockey team. He's actually related to the Swensons. I mean, he's from Aberdeen, so I got a little some. You know, we always talk about Chuck and Blake and the family there too. So he used to always come down when I ran in Montevideo. They always ran their late models down there, so I know that Swenson family a little bit too. But used to run into them every once in a while, and like I said, it's kind of cool to know that Donnie Schatz was Wissota national champion at one time.
Absolutely. And Bert, you probably got to see him at Cedar. I don't know if they ever went to Eastern Wisconsin though. Did they make any trips over your way?
Well, not Wissota sprint cars, but I did see Travis Whitney race with the IRA series at Shawano Speedway, and he was definitely in the top 3. And I think he actually won the race. I'm not positive on that, but I do remember Travis Whitney racing at Shawano Speedway.
So this class started in 1994, the Wissota Street Stock Division. Quite honestly, it's become probably one of my favorite classes to watch in all of Wissota racing is the Street Stock Division. Put on a hell of a show. Your first national champion from Central Wisconsin, Kirk Bogdanovich. I think he raced over kind of maybe Marshfield. I know he ran over at which would have been the old Monster Hall. He ran over there, probably some Rice Lake, maybe some Ashland. I think number 82 was Bogdanovich. And then Montana driver. Now, this guy here, Kraus, I'll let you try to figure out this guy's name. He's back in a super stock a couple years back. His kid also in a super stock. And his kid won a championship. Both of them really good racers. Your second ever street stock national champion. Can you name the driver? Pacer Popham. Remember that name? So him and PJ both run supers over in Montana. So they're still doing some Wissota racing. Now, Kraus, you should get this one right. Back in the 90s, probably the most dominant, feared Wissota street stock driver. When this guy showed up to the racetrack, it was game on. He was going to be absolutely in contention to win. Kind of from over in your neck of the woods a little bit, probably made some trips to your racetrack, ran a lot at Monty, Wilmer, Madison. Boy, he won a ton of Wissota 100s. Do you remember the driver?
Jason Long, I would assume you're saying? No?
No, Scott Paulson.
Scott Paulson, okay.
Yeah, Jason Long, we'll talk about him probably next decade. I think it wasn't until the 2000s. He does have an Natty, but Scott Paulson, man, he used to make trips up to Proctor, Superior. That guy could flat out wheel. When he was in a number, I think 33X was the number. Boy, was he fun to watch. And then one of our rivals here, we talked about him. We both made a lot of laps against this guy, 1998 national champion. He's got, I believe, 4 in the Wissota Superstock division. Diamond Dave Moss in the 12 car. He won the championship in 98. Made a lot. He ran Proctor, I think, weekly. And then Scott Lawrence from Superior, Wisconsin. And I do got to say, thoughts and prayers to Scott, his family, all their friends. His dad passed away this past week. So, we're going to give our best wishes to you. Made a lot of laps against Scott Lawrence. I mean, super good guy. I tell you what, Kraus, there is a guy that could be on our freaking on the team racing deal, because he's not afraid to get after it. Now, a lot of people are like, man, I didn't like that Scott Lawrence guy. Well, he's not afraid to throw the bumper to you a little bit, but I tell you what, you're not going to meet a much better guy off the track. Kind of a fun story I have is we kind of we raced hard against each other, but I did a pretty neat deal for the kids at Labor Day shootout in Hibbing a couple years back, where I gave them tours through the pits before the races and all that. And he's like, you make sure that you stop over at my car. He went and bought a whole bunch of stuff to give the kids. So just a really good guy. And again, thoughts and prayers to his family. And then the final division to get started here in the 90s, the Mod 4, which at Alex would have been the Pro 4 class, but it was the Mod 4s. The first 3 Wissota Mod 4 national titles went to the same guy. Mike Ellis got off on a hot streak. He was really good. I don't remember much about him. Remember the name. I remember seeing him on the old racetrack show And then Jason Voigt won it in 98, and Cody Hendricks won it in 1999. So some pretty good names back down memory lane. Any of those drivers, any drivers in those classes that maybe we didn't talk about, you think back to the 90s that stick out to you guys?
I'm not real familiar with those classes, so I can't think of any other drivers.
Yeah, the street stocks were getting big. That was probably my favorite class of that group. Mod 4s never really took off at any of the tracks that I raced at weekly. But the street stocks, there were some pretty darn good racers. Now, a couple other things that stuck out to the 90s, and then we're going to jump on to the final few segments here. Viking Speedway is one of the few WISSOTA tracks where the pits are still in the infield. It's a half mile. You guys got room to have the pits in the infield. Most tracks do not. As haulers got bigger and bigger and bigger, see, the 90s is when it transitioned from everybody had an open trailer to people started having enclosed trailers and they started moving out. Good or bad for racing, right? Now, I get it. When you got a whole bunch of haulers in the infield you can't see, that's not good. But, Kraus, you race at a track where the pits are in the infield, okay? Is there something missing with the whole aura of the event by having the pits way off in the back versus having the pits in the infield?
Yeah, 100%. And it's all about fan feedback and the fans seeing what's going on in the pits. You hear it all the time, and announcers. It's one thing that, if you remember Ron Krogh back in the day, like he could make a tire change the most interesting thing you've ever heard in your life. I mean, literally, the grandstand would be on their feet, doing a tire change and, watching the pit crews work on their cars, what's going on during intermission. And, I remember sitting in the stands at Viking back in the day because you couldn't go in the pits until you were 16. So, we had to sit up there, but it was, oh, we're going to go down and, hey, look, Ken Schrader's parked over there when he came to Viking, or, the Kaziski brothers, all those guys that used to come up here would say, oh, they're parked over there. We can go see them. And when you're parked outside, you don't know where any of these guys are parked at. You don't even know who's here. I know someone made a comment on the page, actually John Lackman did, about, I used to do it too. You used to sit at Viking, you used to watch all the cars come across the track. Oh, Ron Jones is here. Oh, Jeff Hinkelmeyer pulled into town. And you're parked pit out back, you're outside. You don't get to see all that stuff. So the big thing is just the fan experience. You don't get to see what's going on in the pits and all that stuff. And that I hate parking outside when I go to tracks. I just hate it. I like walking up the ladder on my hauler and watching the races. I don't have to walk up a hill or go sit in the grandstand or walk by a bunch of people. I can be by myself, check the track out right there, or do whatever. So I think it's a cool thing, and it's just, the big thing is just it makes the fan experience 50 times better.
Bert?
Yeah, Shawano Speedway is a half mile. So, when I first started going to the races and in MJ's pit crew, all the cars parked in the infield. And yeah, that was part of the draw for the crowd was, because pit lane was right in front of the grandstand. So if there were any accidents during the races, like Jeff said, changing tires, you got to watch all of that. Now at Shawano Speedway, they still park some cars in the infield, but the bigger haulers park on the outside of the track. But what's unique about Shawano Speedway is part of the pit area outside the track is directly behind the grandstand, like right by the spectator area. So people and there's a chain link fence that separates the area. So people just gather around that chain link fence and watch the pit crews work on the race cars in between races. So, they kind of, their situation's a little bit different because part of the outside pits is like right by the fans. So that's kind of a unique experience.
And I tell you what, it's a double-edged sword because tracks like Hibbing, right? You didn't have to walk up in the grandstands or find a place. When we park in the back straightaway in Hibbing, you can stand on top of the hall or see the races. Same with Proctor, same with Superior. Now, Grand Rapids, you park off a turn number, I guess it'd be 3 and 4. You had to walk down the back straightaway into the back straightaway grandstands to see. Totally different deal. So from that vantage point, I like being outside the track as a racer so I can kind of get that outside vantage point, and I like that. And there's more room because of the big haulers. But, man, when I was a kid, you're right on, Coach. when I was a kid, watching the crews down in the infield and watching what, dad's got going on, and hey, here's this favorite driver, and hey, they broke. They like crashed really bad in the heat race, and literally seeing them yard sale the car. Looks like they're going to try to get it back together. So watching some of that stuff, it just created a whole different environment, and that's something I feel is definitely missing here today. So let's jump into the last lap, guys. A couple final tidbits here before we jump into the predictions. So 2023 USRA National champions were crowned this past weekend. The modifieds, Tyler Davis edged out Brandon Davis for a national championship. In the B mods, Joe Chisholm, I think it was his second in a row, not without a little controversy, because K-Jack, right? Chris Jackson was leading that deal, went down to Wheatland for the USRA Nationals, won the feature, got disqualified, lost his national title at the end of the year. Rough deal for him. But I want to give a super big shout out to late model, the USRA late model national champion, third generation racer, 13-year-old Cade Nelson from Hermantown. Of course, his dad, the Hermantown Hammer, got surgery here this week. So we want to prayers to Daryl Nelson, having surgery, guys, on the 44th day of the year. So best wishes to him. But 4 wins for Cade Nelson, 13-year-old in that USRA late model. Kind of cool to see the future getting off to a really good start. Any WISSOTA news, Coach Kraus? Anything sticking out in the WISSOTA realm? Any news here from this past week?
No, nothing. Haven't heard nothing. I think they had a board meeting WISSOTA did here last week or something like that, but I haven't been hearing much. So some more schedules coming out here. Hopefully, put fine tuning. I think I put the final touches on the Viking Speedway schedule here, so I'm going to get that out this week. And pretty excited about a few things we got going on there. Waiting to hear back on a couple things, but other than that, there's not much. It's just kind of that dead period, and people. I think they're going to, once the new year, I think they're going to start putting some cars together here. And actually had, I buy my aluminum from Brady Gertis. He just sent me a message, wonder if I need some aluminum. So he must know it's going to be that time of the year. So I'll have to get working on the car a little bit. But other than that, no, it's been from the WISSOTA end, it's been pretty quiet.
Yeah, the only thing I saw the announcement is they were looking at doing an LS engine, kind of a test deal. Kind of sounds like they might have a couple tracks in the work. Sounds like it's mostly on hold. Don't know all the details, but from the people I talked to, they said that LS engine is kind of the future. They said that's a really, really good direction to go. I don't know a lot about it, but something that hopefully they look at, try to get the sport growing in that next direction. The Ironman, Shane Zabrowski, my dad had a chance to talk to him down in Casa Grande, and it's confirmed. Longhorn late model on the way. So the 7A going to be in a WISSOTA late model, WISSOTA modified, and a WISSOTA super stock for the 2024 season. Word on the street from what he told my dad, the super stock's going to be kind of the more limited schedule. Main focus is going to be that mod in the late model. So going to be fun to see him transition into WISSOTA's top division. Also for Brad, gotta give our boy Brad a shout out here, Bert. The Busch Light Clash. I know he's a big NASCAR guy, so we got to give that shout out to Brad. The Clash at the Coliseum, Friday and Saturday. I have YouTube TV, so it'll be on there, but you can find the times online. Either one of you planning on watching the Clash at the Coliseum this coming weekend? And what do you think of this event?
That's on Saturday. It's not Sunday.
Friday is the heats. Saturday is the features, I believe.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
All right. No, I plan on watching it. I mean, I grew up watching NASCAR, and the Busch Clash was always okay, this is the start of the racing season. I don't know about it being at the, in the Coliseum. It's been there for 2 years now. I mean, it's definitely a contact sport when at the Coliseum. So it does create some excitement.
Coach Kraus, you got to like that, right? I mean, that's what it's all about. I don't want to see this cookie cutter mile and a half follow each other. I want to see a flat out fist fight brawl in the pits. This is the track that can produce that. Coach, your thoughts on the Busch Light Flash?
Yeah, absolutely. And they interview all the drivers all the time, and they just say how big of an event it is. And they get notoriety. You're out in California, there's tons of people, tons of media. And I think it's well deserved for these NASCAR guys. I really do. They kind of, the rap they get, but I think they get to kind of be in the spotlight now, in between the conference championship and the Super Bowl. People looking for something to watch. So, and I think, like I said, NASCAR does a real good deal. It's all about the drivers and it's about the teams and giving notoriety and getting to a different population, different demographic. So it's a fun event to watch. Like you said, it's beating and banging, but I just like seeing the fact that we're giving these NASCAR guys some notoriety, and it's good. It's racing, right? So dirt track, asphalt, whatever it is, you're helping racing.
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to it myself. So let's jump into our final segment, guys. 3 bold predictions. Every week we make 3 bold racing related predictions. We start out by holding ourselves accountable. We got it right, we got it wrong. Keep track of our stats. Some of us doing a little bit better than others, right? But I want to give a shout out to a brand new sponsor, good friend of mine, been a friend for quite a number of years. Hard Charger Performance Specialties. Used to be Hard Charger Race Engines when he was building my race engines, but Nick said, I do more than engines now, right? I do a lot of different stuff. I do gears, I got dynos. It's not just race engines. I do a lot more, but he's based out of Sydney, Montana. So you Minnesota guys, IMCA guys, if you're out in Sydney, Montana, this is your go-to guy. He's literally built engines for over 20 years. Everything from the lower level classes, pure stocks, street stocks, all the way up to late models and everything in between. He's done it all. I ran his engine, so I can speak on behalf of him. Not only did I win, I won a lot of races with his engine in the car, but he was that engine guy, right? That I had to where not only was I running his engine, he wanted to know. We had a good relationship. He wanted to know, how was it running? How did I do? How did the night go? It was super cool having that kind of a rapport with my engine builder. So out there, 500 within a 500-mile radius, right over there, I think he called it the it's Montana, North Dakota, it's Sydney, Montana. You guys know where that is, right? 500-mile radius. He's the only dyno out there, from what he knows, where you can actually schedule a time. So that's your go-to guy to dyno. Also, he is Minnesota's go-to guy for crates. So he builds engines, right? Not just crates, but if you have a crate, if you're a crate guy, he's the certified crate guy out there to get your crate engine repaired. So that's Hard Charger Performance Specialties, shipping a non-issue. So if you don't live there, he has some unique ways where you can ship from wherever you are in the country to get your stuff over there at a pretty reasonable rate. So give Nick a call. We'll have his. I don't have his number in front of me. I will have it posted up here on the screen. But super excited to have him on board for the 2024 season. So off the board here, this guy is our accountability session. We'll start with that. Bert, you said that RTJ was going to win one this weekend, and he'd be on the podium every night. Well, should have just stuck with the win because he was not on the podium on night one. So you got that one wrong. You said the mod winners down at the Ernie Mincy would be the same winners as the week before. That was not the case. And you said that Superman, Jonathan Davenport, would not be on the podium at Golden Isles. And it was close, right? He almost got shuffled back, but he snuck that one out and got on. Coach Kraus, you had a couple from the Ernie Mincy. You said the same driver would win in the mods all 3 nights. That did not happen. You said the same driver would win in the late models all 3 nights. That did not happen. And then you said the Longhorns would get skunked at Golden Isles. So, Coach, are you freaking Dan Campbell? You're a coach. I mean, I get it, right? It's bold predictions. You're trying to roll the dice. You're trying to be bold, but you don't need to go for it on 4th down when you have a shot to go up by 3 scores here. I mean, that you're gonna have to lay down some bunts here to get on the board here. I mean, Coach, what are we doing here? Right? What are we doing?
Hey, I was 1 for 2. Huddy won 1, and then RT. Well, if JD said that RT drove over him, that means they must have wrecked, which they didn't. He gave him a little love tap. If he wants to get driven over, tell him to hop on a super stock at Viking Speedway, and I'll drive over him. I'll show him what's done. So I just like having fun with the Longhorns, but I'm bold. You got to make bold predictions, not like Bert over there making non-bold predictions.
I got them all wrong.
Well, you're swinging for the fences anyway. So good, Jeff here. He said that all the features would be won this weekend by either JD or RTJ. Well, that did not happen because the old Rocket won night number 1. He said that Jonathan Davenport would be the point leader for the Lucas Oil Dirt Late Model Series after Golden Isles, and he snuck that one in there because I think it's a 3-way tie, I believe. But yeah, he's technically the point leader, so he got that one correct. And he said the smooth operator Bobby Pierce would get a win down in New Zealand, and he did. So 2 correct for him. We got Kenny here in the Peanut Gallery, another fan. So fans, if you want to send us some predictions, go ahead, send them away. We got 3 here from Kenny. He said one driver would win at least 2 features at Golden Isles. That did not happen. And so here's an example of a bunt. Okay, he's laying one down for the team. Lucas Rodin's going to win at least 1 at the Ernie Mincy. He won 2. So hey, he's like, I got to get some points on the board. He said the fans sucked ass last year. I got to get on the board. So myself, I had 3 of them come off the board as well. I said winless Ricky Weiss would win at least 2 this weekend. He started front row and Dustin Blue whooped his ass. Cost me a point. He won 1, not 2. I said Lucas Rodin would finish on the podium in the A mod. He did not. He looked good he had some speed, but just not quite enough. And then I said Blake Adams would win at least 1 down there, and he parked it in Victory Lane on Friday night. So our current standings, guys, Bert, you got 6. You got 6 correct right now with a 35.3%. I got 3 correct at 23.1. Coach Kraus, you got 2 correct. Your percentage right now, 16.7. You're kind of cellar dweller in that. I'm not that far ahead of you, really. Good Jeff has 3 correct with a 60% correct. And the Peanut Gallery, which consists of a couple people, mostly Kenny right now, 2 of them correct, 40%. So our leaders right now, as far as overall correct picks, Bert's leading the way. 6 correct here in the 2024 pick'ems. And as far as our win percentage right now, our correct percentage, Good Jeff got a big lead right now. It's early. So he's sucking really bad in the pick'ems, but he's leading the way in the percentages here. So this week, we're going to make 3 laps around the track. 3 bold predictions to close this episode number 210 out. We'll go Bert, Coach Kraus, Good Jeff, got a couple from Kenny, and myself, Bert. Lap number 1, what do you got?
At East Bay, including the preliminary nights where there's split features, Kyle Strickler will get at least 3 feature wins this week.
The high side tickler, Kyle Strickler. 3 wins at East Bay. He did win at North Florida, guys. Did you jump on Dirt Race Central and watch the feature from North Florida? It was, in their defense, it rained on Saturday. They had a day race on Sunday to run the features. They literally had to stop the modified feature partway through and water the track. It was bad. And, I mean, day racing never works, but Strickler got that one done. So, Coach Kraus.
It should be 3 DNFs, Bert, not 2 wins. We're going to go, he's got 4 chances. The 49 will get even with the 20 RT this week. He's got 4 chances. So you guys can make the call whether if it's getting even or what it is, but he's getting even with 20 RT this week. He's got 4 chances.
Okay. So that kind of That's going to segue into Good Jeff's first pick. Kind of thinking the same way. Okay. He said the JDRTJ deal, that scuffle's not done. Their RTJ, right, clearly he's got a chip on his shoulder, pissed off at it's him against the world right now because he lost the Lucas Oil deal. Davenport, not an RTJ fan. Those two over this weekend, over these 4 races, are going to get into it, resulting one of the 2 drivers will result in a DNF from a scuffle between those 2 drivers. So that's from Good Jeff. Kenny is going to go to East Bay. He said there's 2 Wissota drivers down there. I don't know if any more are going, but there's 2. I know Ryan Gerke's down there and Joe Thomas is down there. So there's 75 or 76 mods. He said, and he's like, I got to lay down a bunt. I could have went with a higher number, he said, but both of those 2 were going to make the A-main in the big show on Saturday and finish with top 20 finishes. All right. So hopefully they finish higher than that. So I'm gonna go East Bay as well. My first pick is gonna go to East Bay. So on the final night of the mods, so that's the $5,000 to win show Saturday. Now keep in mind, guys, this is the final Winter Nationals as scheduled, right? So the final time. So there's gonna be at least 3 different chassis builders in the top 5 in the A main, and there's gonna be a parlay. The high side tickler Kyle Strickler and Lucas Lee both finish on the podium. So those 2 on the podium and 3 different chassis builders in the top 5 in the A main on the final night at East Bay. Bert, your second pick.
Going to the Lucas Oil series, and I will say Superman will have a better average finish than RTJ in the Lucas Oil races this week.
All right. Okay. Coach Kraus?
I'm gonna go. I kind of was on the same page with you with the chassis builders and the mods, but mine's a little different, a little bit more bolder than your week predictions like you always do. So we're gonna go on Saturday. The top 3 in the mods, they're all going to be different chassis. So there's going to be 3 different chassis only in the top 3, not like you picking top 39, 2 different chassis builders. I'm going top 3, all different chassis builders.
I parlayed my shit. I said 3 in the top 5 and named 2 of the drivers out of 76 that are there that are going to finish on the podium.
Yeah,
so
the two fastest mod guys there. I mean, how hard is that?
You just said Strickler's going to DNF all the time, so I don't know which one is it here. All right. So we're going to go to Good Jeff here. He said Rocket 1, Hudson O'Neal, will sweep at Alltech this week. Not Ocala, but at Alltech, he's going to win every feature this weekend in the Rocket 1. Kenny is going to go USMTS racing here. They're starting just a couple weeks away from USMTS season. In the 2024 season, there's going to be at least 5 drivers that have never won a USMTS race, a feature, that are going to be first-time USMTS feature winners in 2024. So that's laying one down. 5 first-time winners. That's a pretty good one there. And then I'm going to go. I'm going to go with Krause's logic here, the non-Longhorn deal. So there's 4 races this weekend, okay? At least 50%, right? So that way if there's a rainout, we'll go with percentage. At least 50% of the feature wins this weekend will be won by non-Longhorns in the late models for the Lucas Oil races. Bert, last lap for you, buddy.
I will say that 18-year-old Cole Zarneski from Northeast Wisconsin, second year racing a modified. He's at East Bay. He will qualify for the big show.
Okay. Good luck to him out there. Coach Kraus?
We're going, well, since JD pissed off Mr. 20RT, 20RT is taking 3 out of 4 this weekend. or 2 out of 3. I know you're into the percentage deal, but 20 RTs, you made them mad. It's not going to be good. It's not going to be pretty this week, guys. Ricky Thornton Jr. is taking 3 out of 4.
So essentially, he's going to lose no more than one feature this weekend.
Correct. Yep.
Okay. So that way, if there's one, he's got to win it. Okay. So I'm going to go with Good Jeff here, and he's going down to East Bay for the first couple nights there of the late model swing, and he knows how the weather is in Florida. So he said that the UMP modifieds race Monday through Saturday this week. At least 2 of the nights for the modifieds will rain out. That way the rain is out of the way and doesn't disrupt the late models down there at East Bay. So 2 of the mod nights will rain out at East Bay. So Kenny's third and final one. He said, speaking of East Bay, speaking of Lucas Oil Dirt late models, there's going to be at least 3 of the nights for the late models at East Bay will be won by drivers that have never won a late model race at East Bay before. So 3 new late model winners at East Bay. It's a good one right there. I'm going to go bold on this one, Coach Crow. There's going to be an announcement by the end of the late model speedweeks at East Bay saying we're going to run this bitch back at least one more year. East Bay will be back in 2025. That's wishful thinking. I had the liberty of racing down there, had me some strawberry shortcake, right? So, boy, I'd like to see that one more time. I don't see anything pointing that direction, but man, I would not be surprised. So one more year at least. They're going to announce 2025 Speed Weeks. Book it. That's going to happen again at East Bay. So there it is, gentlemen. Episode 210 in the books. Always fun chatting racing. Hope everybody enjoyed the show. As always, I'm Ryan. That's Bert. That's Coach Kraus. Thanks for tuning in to the One to Go Show.